We must go back to the things themselves. With this rallying cry, a German mathematician-turned-philosopher launched one of the most transformative intellectual movements of the 20th century. Edmund Husserl, born in 1859, didn't just create a new philosophy, he invented an entirely new way of seeing. His mission? To strip away centuries of assumptions and examine consciousness itself, as it actually appears to us in lived experience. Husserl began as a mathematician, studying under the great Karl Weierstrass. Numbers, proofs, certainties, these were his tools. But something gnawed at him. How do we know anything at all? What is the relationship between our minds and the world we claim to understand? These questions pulled him from the clarity of mathematics into the labyrinth of philosophy, where he would spend decades forging a method he called phenomenology. At the heart of his breakthrough was a deceptively simple insight. All consciousness is consciousness of something. This principle, called intentionality, revealed that our minds are never empty chambers. Every thought points toward an object, a memory, a hope, a perceived tree, an abstract concept. Consciousness isn't a container, it's a relation, always reaching outward, always directed. But Husserl demanded we examine this relationship with surgical precision. He developed what he called the Epoché, the phenomenological reduction, or bracketing. Imagine suspending every belief you hold about external reality, not denying it, but setting it aside. The question isn't whether the tree exists out there. The question is, how does the tree appear to consciousness? What structures of experience make perception possible? This wasn't skepticism. It was radical focus. He taught that we must bracket our natural attitude, our everyday assumption that the world simply exists independently, to reveal the structures of experience itself. What he discovered was astonishing. Perception, he argued, isn't passive reception. When you see a cube, you only directly perceive three faces, yet you experience it as a complete three-dimensional object. Consciousness actively synthesizes information, filling gaps, projecting expectations. He called these implied aspects horizons. When you see a house from the front, its unseen backside is co-given in your perception, hovering at the edges of awareness. Time itself became one of his most profound investigations. He taught that consciousness operates in a living present, where the just past is retained and the about to come is anticipated. You hear a melody not as isolated notes, but as a flowing unity, because consciousness binds moments together. Without this temporal synthesis, experience would shatter into disconnected fragments. But Husserl grew increasingly troubled by the direction of modern science. In his late masterwork, The Crisis of European Sciences and Transcendental Phenomenology, he argued that science had forgotten its foundation. He spoke of the Lebenswelt, the Lifeworld, the pre-theoretical world of lived experience where science itself originates. Before there are equations describing motion, there's the experience of running, of feeling wind, of watching leaves fall. Science, in its mathematical abstractions, had become severed from this ground. Mathematics idealizes the world, creating perfect circles and infinite lines that exist nowhere in lived reality. The crisis wasn't that science was wrong. It was that it had forgotten what it was measuring. He insisted that philosophy must be rigorous, descriptive, and grounded in what shows itself directly. Evidence, for Husserl, meant the self-givenness of phenomena. Truth is what presents itself to consciousness, not what we infer or construct through theory. He urged philosophers, describe, don't explain. Resist the urge to construct causal theories before you've honestly examined what appears. Husserl also recognized that we don't experience the world alone. Other people aren't puzzles to be solved, but are given directly as other conscious beings. Empathy isn't intellectual inference. It's immediate. When you see someone in pain, you don't first perceive facial movements and then deduce suffering. You perceive the suffering itself. This intersubjectivity, he argued, is the foundation of shared meaning, culture, and even what we call objectivity. Truth arises not from a view from nowhere, but from experiences that can be shared and verified by multiple consciousnesses. Near the end of his life, reflecting on decades of relentless inquiry, Husserl acknowledged something profound. He had sought certainty, but found the inexhaustible. Phenomenology wasn't a closed system. It was an open frontier. The world, as it appears to consciousness, is endlessly deep. Edmund Husserl died in 1938, but his method revolutionized philosophy. He taught generations that philosophy begins not in doubt, but in wonder. Wonder at the obvious, yet mysterious fact that the world appears to us at all. His legacy echoes in existentialism, in cognitive science, and anywhere thinkers dare to examine experience without theoretical blinders. He reminded us that before we theorize about reality, we must learn to see it again, as if for the first time. I'm grateful for the moments shared in discourse. May our paths cross again in the fullness of time.